According to a recent piece in the Intercept, a lead organizer of the January 6th events claims that Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs helped to plan the event, as well as Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar and Alabama Congressman Mo Brooks.
So the organizer, Ali Alexander, he made his allegations during separate live streams in late December, saying, quote, "We're the four guys who came up with the January 6th event." Here to unpack the details, D.C. Bureau Chief, our friend Ryan Grimm. Good to see you, Ryan. Thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Yeah. Ryan, just break down kind of what we know, some of the reporting that you have there about the role of these congressmen. I mean, were they actively planning the event, asking people to come? What were some of the background here? I think it's important to try to understand how exactly this all came to be.
Sure. So, fairly early on, Ali Alexander, who's this kind of idiosyncratic pro-Trump personality on the, who kind of overlaps between the kind of the fringes of the right wing of the House Republican Conference and the kind of pro-Trump world, began highlighting January 6th as the day that everybody needed to mass in Washington. And after that, a lot of organizations also glommed on to that and said, yes, this is right. January 6th is the day. And as Ali would explain to people on his live streams and at events, he says he got the idea from these members of Congress who said, look, that's the date that we're going to be debating whether or not to certify the Electoral College. And if you can make enough noise, if you can have a mob loud enough, and I'll use the word mob, you can have a mob loud enough that will convince Republicans who are still on the fence that the energy really is with voting with Andy Biggs, the Freedom Caucus, Gosar, Brooks, and objecting to these the Electoral College count. When they voted on Obamacare, there were thousands and thousands of people outside the House chamber, and you could hear their roar. You could hear their roar inside the House chamber, through those marble walls. And so it's not as if Biggs and Brooks and Gosar were saying what you need to do is storm in and kill people. They're saying have a huge mob and make a ton of noise to make sure that they feel pressure.
And so, so they didn't tell people to go and riot inside the Capitol building, but have they expressed, Ryan, any contrition or self-reflection about their role in the events that led up to that day?
No, and Ali, to be clear, the night before the event was chanting victory or death, and was very clearly saying that the stakes for this, could not be higher. That maintaining control of the White House was a moral imperative, were his words. Now, Brooks, after the violence, went on and did a radio interview that Li Fang reported on, where he said that political violence is understandable in situations that are similar to this. So he wasn't showing any contrition. Now Biggs, very interestingly, he denied to the Arizona Republic that he had even heard of Ali Alexander, which itself is that's an unlikely claim to have made. But he said, I never met with him at all. And so then Aida Chavez, my colleague, said, well, here is Ali at an event in December playing a video from you that he says you sent to the rally to be played since you couldn't be there, since you were back in Washington lobbying people to stop the steal. And his office said, oh, well, actually, it was Paul Gosar. His team asked us for that video. And so we gave it to Gosar, and Gosar gave it to Ali Alexander. So you're already seeing people kind of start to turn on each other as the events did not unfold as they kind of hoped that they would.
Yeah, it's really interesting there, Ryan. So in general, what are the next steps? I mean, are this being cited within the House of Representatives? I mean, is this part of a general investigation? As far as I know, Ali was not the only organizer of this protest. So what are some other details there?
Right. Well, I'm told that the Office of Congressional Ethics has reviewed the claims that Ali has made and is looking into the connection between him and these three members of Congress. Of course, there are others who expressed varying degrees of sympathy that Democrats are looking at when they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to try to start expelling members of Congress. And the moment that this gained kind of leadership credibility was when House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent around a letter. Buried in the last paragraph of it, she said, I wanted to thank everybody for their thoughts on the 25th Amendment, on impeachment and on Amendment 14, Section 3. Now, the 14th Amendment, Section 3 is the post-civil amendment that says that if you are a former member of Congress or a member of Congress or other federal official, state official, and you participated in an insurrection, then you are disqualified from holding office. That was aimed at Confederates, but it's sitting there in the Constitution. And for Pelosi to point to it was a real signal that this is something that she's at least considering doing.
And do you think there's any support within the Republican caucus or Republican senators for those types of actions?
It's hard to say how far that support goes. You're seeing a lot of comments from members of Congress saying, from Republican members of Congress, many of them speaking anonymously, saying that this has gone too far, that they have whipped up too much anger among their base, and that they've now kind of lost control of this tiger. Tiger kittens are cute when you've got them in your living room, but the thing about tigers is they keep growing the more you feed them, and so the question of whether they would like to have this tiger return to a kitten is not a real one. Of course they would, but are they going to tell the tiger that? And so far, not many of them have been willing to do so, because you see these significant numbers of Republicans saying that they approve of the actions of January 6th. So they're caught between one world of kind of Democrats, a lot of independents, and all of corporate America saying that anybody who participated in this event is to be pushed out of decent society effectively, and on the other hand you have a chunk of the Republican base saying, no, actually this was a good thing, and if you don't defend it, then you're with them. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists, and everybody has a different idea of who the terrorists are.
Yeah, and that chunk is the most active and the most vocal as well, most likely to vote in primaries. Ryan, great to have you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Coming up, Matt Stiller is going to join us to talk about big tech's role in all of this when Rising returns.